Welcome back to the channel. Today's video, we are going to be going over some of my 2024 predictions. How is this year going? Today is, we're about 9 days into January, and already we had the school shooting, which never really made it to mainstream media just because it didn't fit the narrative. The individual that did the rampaging used a pump action shotgun and a 22 handgun. As in doesn't fit the narrative, didn't use an AR-15. So, of course you didn't hear about it. It was like, oh, this happened, and then quickly went away. So that's how it goes. If it doesn't fit the narrative, boom, you're never going to hear about it. All right, so my 2024 predictions. Now, who am I to make these predictions? I'm nobody. I just pay attention. I do like to read a lot. I like to stay abreast of things that are going on, and I am a big student of history. History does not repeat itself, but it sure as hell rhymes. So what do I think is going to happen? This year is going to be incredibly tumultuous. And we're not going to get into weird things like climate change and cow farts and weird things like that. We're going to be talking about things that directly affect America and you, the citizen. All right, I made a little list. There are more things I'm sure on here. It's not me trying to read the tea leaves, but I have a really good track record when it comes to pulling this stuff out of the thin air. I mean, just because I pay attention. Going all the way back to years and years ago, when I was in my MBA program, I had a massive heated argument with one of the professors in one of the classes when we were going over GDP, Keynesian economics, things like that, which I am not a fan of. But we were talking about the GDP to debt ratio for the United States. And at the time, we were probably only like 70% of our in debt compared to the GDP. And the teacher, is explaining to the class and all these MBA candidates that how Keynesian economics is like the way to go, and that the Federal Reserve can just, money machine go burr, and it would never affect anything. And I was like the sole person that spoke up and said, that's insanity. It will cause massive inflation. Once our debt is at 100% or more of our GDP, the country is pretty much in a downward spiral. When you look at countries like Venezuela and all the other crap hole third world countries where they just have rampant debt, okay, the GDP is pretty much negative. You're going to have massive inflation with massive starvation and civil unrest, so on and so forth. All right. So I made a little list. Here are my predictions, okay, for 2024. And feel free to, hit up the comments below and tell me what you guys think. All right. First and foremost, I think the border crisis is going to become a bigger deal, especially with it being an election year. I know recently, about the past day or two, the Mexican president told President Biden that if he just gives amnesty to the 10 million illegals that have crossed our border, then he will help secure the border on the Mexican side. That's not a good deal, but I'm sure they'll do it, right? They'll do it unilaterally with an executive order, or they'll find a way to give amnesty to these 10 million individuals. The problem is it will fundamentally transform the United States, if not for generations to come, more likely for the rest of its existence. All right, that's just a lot of people to just give blanket amnesty to, especially those that don't really want to be Americans. I really don't care how you feel about it, and I'm sure you don't care how I feel about it. I just know that you're not a nation without some sort of border, And if you're not controlling who comes across these borders, then you're going to get the riffraff. You're going to get terrorists. You're going to get a bunch of people that really don't want to become part of your culture, and they just start to erase your culture. Plus, everyone thinks it's like a bunch of people from Mexico coming. It's not. Right? There's tons of Haitians. I was reading a report where they had a bunch of military-aged Chinese people coming over and from Iran. That's a good way to infiltrate and invade a country. Just cross their southern border, and you do this enough, eventually you're going to have a small army, and then you just take over internally. So the border crisis is going to be a big deal, especially with the election. Speaking of the election, I personally think the political polarization that we are currently in, which is bad, is going to get worse. You're going to see all kinds of nutty things going on, even outside of like them removing Trump from the ballot, whether it be the primary ballot, like they did in Maine. Colorado, I think, is kind of backtracked on it. The Supreme Court has opted to pick up this case and give us a final decision whether states have the ability to remove presidential candidates from primaries. All right. I think they're going to try and find a way to get Trump completely off the ballot. So technically, you're removing a person and not giving us, the American citizen, an opportunity to vote for who we want. Now, some people are like, "Oh, you can just write them in." And there's a bunch of states where you can't write anybody in. You have to pick from what's on there, you know. So I'm not going to allow states to dictate who I get to vote for arbitrarily when they just remove them. They don't give us the opportunity to vote. So be prepared for that. I think a lot of civil unrest is going to come of that. It's just going to get bad. I mean, Joe Biden just gave a speech where he called Trump supporters the MAGA people, wherever you fall in that spectrum. If you're not with him, then you're basically an enemy of the state, right? And I know they're talking about how it's a threat to democracy. Well, okay, but we're not a democratic or a democracy. That's not how our government works. Our government is a constitutional republic. The founding fathers did not want a democracy. They abhorred democracies because 51% of the people can take away the other 49% of the people's stuff and rights and things like that. And it's not even going to be the 51%. It's going to be a 1% that control everything. Because a lot of people just follow lockstep with the political talking heads, the political elites, and obviously the media carries water for them. So when you have all these politicians come out saying the most dumbest things you've ever heard of, and the media just runs with it, there's no help because the sheeple are just going to follow. Me, I am somewhere in the middle, right? I just want to be left alone. Very libertarian on certain things, conservative on other things, and very liberal on other things. I am a weird amalgam of it. I think with this year going forward, with the political polarization and all of that stuff, you're going to see AI become more of a problem. All right, it's already reached a point where people can make deepfakes and dub voices, and you can create these videos that look very real. But if you do a little bit of research, you clearly can tell they're fake, right? You're going to see videos surface of individuals on either side, and people are going to see it. They're going to believe it. They're not going to do their research. They're not going to come out of their bubble, out of their little shell, and try and figure out if this is true or not. You know, and it's going to add to that polarization, which is, I mean, it's crumbling from within. Okay, I don't think America is ever going to fall from an external threat. It's always going to be an internal threat, right? We're going to rot from the inside out, like Rome did, or any other great republic. Greece, Rome is the one that everyone always tropes about. How, you know, how many times a day do men think about Rome or the fall of Rome? I don't think about it daily, but I can compare and contrast and be like, okay, this is what's happening today, and here's what happened with Rome or other great republics. I think during the summer, we are probably going to see another summer of love. Right now it's winter. Not a lot of protests are going to be going on. It's really cold. We just had a ton of snow here in the Northeast, and today we're getting a bunch of rain. So that's going to make for fun times because the street drains are all plugged up with ice and snow, and now we're getting like 4 inches of rain. So sure, there's going to be tons of flooding. But there being a summer of love, or mostly peaceful protests. I love when they said that with all the buildings behind them on fire. Um, you know, we're just going to have it again. I know I just saw um, a press conference with one of the attorney generals, I think, from DC. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it said they're going to go after the J6ers. They're going to go after people that were there but did not enter the Capitol. They're just in the area. So that's political persecution. I mean, look to what the Soviet Union did. Look to what North Korea does, or these other countries where they have dictators and they use political power to crush their enemies, basically the people in the country that don't think like them. So that's coming. Joy. Israel and Hamas, I know it's kind of not been in the news a lot, but I bet you that's going to explode in our face. I know Israel's asking for more money. I saw a thing, an article. I didn't read the whole thing. It was just a quick synopsis. But I guess Biden, the administration, has been working behind the scenes trying to get Israel out of the Gaza Strip. And I don't think that's going to go well. And again, we're putting our nose into business that where it doesn't belong. So it's all going to blow up in our face like it normally does. With that being said, Ukraine and Russia. Again, this is not really in the news a lot anymore. I think people are just tired of it. But hey, the Ukrainian president was just in the country begging for more money. And our Congress is trying to strike a deal to where we give Ukraine a ton of money, we give Israel a ton of money, and they tie it to our border security. I don't think anybody should be getting our money. It's our money. Ukraine can fight Ukraine's war, and that's Europe's problem, not our problem. But as this keeps going, it's going to get worse. Just a couple of days ago, North Korea launched a shelling of South Korea. South Korea then responded. So I think with the North Korean mobilization that's been going on and their little dictator telling everybody to prepare, his country basically, to prepare for war and get ready to go destroy South Korea and attack Americans, so on and so forth. I think that's, the rate that we keep going, I would not be surprised if that area of the world started to get a little hotter. That would give China the opportunity to invade Taiwan because they're flying over their airspace anyways. So them just getting a little more aggressive with there, and honestly, I think if they attacked Taiwan and tried to take them, we'd do nothing. And even if we tried to do something, all China has to do is just flick the switch and shut us off from all the products that they make, which is everything. We don't manufacture stuff here. We design it, and then we send it over there. They manufacture it and ship it back. All right, look at COVID. All the shortages that we had. They make our medications, they make the electronics, they make all these things. If we don't play nice with China, they're going to shut us off. And, well, you saw how the people reacted in 2020 to the shortages and everything else. So, good times there. Then, of course, we have Venezuela basically saying they're going to take half of Guyana. And it's a strip in Guyana that's just forest. Well, what happened was one of the oil companies was doing exploration drilling, and they found a ton of oil. So that's good. That's good for the Guyana and their government and the people. It's a remote, desolate area of jungle. But Venezuela found out about it. We all know how Venezuela's been going, right? I mean, they were once the richest nation in Central America. And then they went the route of socialism and they nationalized the oil industry and all that good stuff. And look at them now. They're poor. their economy is in ruins, and they're claiming that, you know, all this oil in Guyana, it's theirs. So they're going to take it. So they're mobilizing their troops on the border. Guyana, who is an ally with us, they're asking us for help. So we're now sticking our nose in that. And if Venezuela tries to take their land, who do you think is going to step in? Guyana. They can only do so much, so it's going to be us. So with that going on in North Korea, China, Ukraine, Russia, Israel, Hamas, you know what happens when all these different areas are at war and we're sticking our nose in there, trying to help people here with money, help people here with special forces or ground troops and airstrikes. So that's called World War III, when the world is pretty much at war. All right. So we're heading down a very dangerous path. The entire world is very unstable, and I think our leadership is my personal opinion, I think our leadership is weak and has no clue what's going on, and they're doing some shady stuff. And of course, you and I are going to have to pay for it. So that being said, I've also heard and seen some articles talking about how during the 2024 election year, don't be surprised if we have a black swan event to distract us. And if you don't know what a black swan event is, that is something that happens that is absolutely so catastrophic um, that the government will then swoop in and be able to push through a bunch of things that they normally wouldn't be able to do. Of course, it is not some external threat. It is usually something done internally, right? So they may make it look like it's an external threat, but it was something that our government did to ourselves. And if you think they've never done this before, you're not a student of history. Our government has done this a lot. I think with all this going on, our inflation gets really out of control, especially with all the spending, and we're facing imminent economic collapse, whether it's student debt bubble that bursts, another housing bubble that bursts, but I think the economic collapse is right around the corner. I mean, things are so expensive these days. People can't afford anything. You know, you're paying. You go from 2% interest rates on your home to now you're. I think the top I saw was like almost 10%. I think it's come down since, but still, nonetheless, economic collapse is there. So be ready for that. And that's pretty much all I listed in my little thing. I'm sure there's more. I'm sure I missed stuff. So in the comments below, let me know what I missed. But with all this going on, all right, not to be a negative Nancy and a Debbie Downer, what can we do? Well, one, understand that these things can happen. Understand it's inevitable. All right, it's not if, but when. All right. So what do you need to do? Okay, one, don't bury your head in the sand. Pay attention to what's going on. Do research. Figure things out. All right. Don't just watch mainstream media, whether it's CNN, MSNBC, or OAN, or whoever you're watching. Look at both sides. All right. Somewhere there's going to be the truth, right? If you look at MSNBC, Fox News, OAN, you're going to get three basically different perspectives, and somewhere in there is the truth. Or just listen to Alex Jones, I guess. One of my friends is a big Alex Jones fan and says how he's been right about so many things, and I'm like, oh, okay. So, you know, I don't care who you listen to. Figure things out, right? Just don't believe whatever you hear, all right? Even if you're listening and you watch probably the most famous milquetoast fence sitter I know of, that'd be Tim Pool. He's even calling for a lot of these things that are on this list, right? That are coming. Do your own research, all right? That being said, knowledge is power. All right. Now that you have that knowledge, implement precautions or safety measures, okay? Stock up on some canned food. stock up on ammunition, because there is going to be an ammunition shortage again. The price is already going up. Make sure you have what you need to ride out the storm. Okay, I know there's videos out there about this, that, and the other thing, as in like bug out bags and prepping, and I'm not here to talk about all that. But um, if everything does go sideways, you're probably gonna not want to bug out, just because everyone has this dream idea where they just grab their bag, they grab a gun, some ammo, and they go out the door, never to come back, and they're just going to live up in the mountains. If you've never done that, like lived in the woods, the mountains, and all that, it is horrible. You've only got a handful of days of supplies, and then you're going to go off and live in the woods for what? Right? I mean, it's me, my wife, I got dogs, I got my kids. Just stay home, bug in, but then you can't hold your house alone. You need more people. So you're going to need community. So build community. Not only prepare and hedge against all these horrible things that could happen, build community. Get friends, and I don't mean someone that you just talk to here and there. I mean a true friend, someone that you could call at 3 o'clock in the morning to come hide a body, and they won't even question it. That's the type of friends I'm talking about. People that are like-minded like you, that will come together and help you ride out that storm, because you're going to be helping them ride out that storm. Right? You're going to pool your resources. So if you don't have friends like that, I don't know what to tell you. Get out and meet more people. I don't know. So I feel like this video is like all doom and gloom, and it's not bad for a one take. That's all I really have to say about my prediction of 2024. I'm curious to see how it all plays out. I do know it's going to be a wild ride, and I think some of the wildest stuff that I'm going to see come up probably won't even surprise me. All right, I think even Elon Musk said the election, his prediction for the election, it's going to be something like the most entertaining outcome that there can be is what it's going to be. So take that with a grain of salt. I don't know what would be the most entertaining. I'm worried about what's going to be the most scariest. So, I mean, they're calling now that Joe Biden's going to be dropping out of the race probably next month due to health conditions. But who are they going to put in? Like Gavin Newsom, Hillary Clinton? Who are they going to run? And it's. I've heard people like he's going to bow out, this, that, and the other thing, and then I've heard others that are even more scary. It's where after they do like the Iowa caucus and they do a couple of these primaries, everybody votes for Biden, so he'll be the nominee, but then he steps down. Well, it's too late to go back and do more primaries because they're already done. So then the DNC gets to just anoint their candidate, and the people basically will have no say in it. So that's really, really scary in my opinion. That's some despotic behavior. But head up the comments. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know how your 2024 is going so far. Let me know your predictions. Let me know if you think I've nailed it or if I'm just full of it. Best way to support the channel is always go buy merch. There's Patreon, there's locals, tons of things like that. Helps me continue to provide you with entertainment and education, so edutainment, free of charge. All right, so I had a technical difficulty. I guess it wasn't a one shot. I had to cut it right there. So that's all I have for this video. Hit up the comments. Let's discuss, and I'll give you guys a sneak peek. Upcoming in the next few videos, we're going to be doing some gun reviews. I might have got my hands on a Ruger P95 and a Marlin 3030 and a few other guns that really need some TLC, need a good function check, and it's a good opportunity to review them. So let me know down in the comments if you're excited for those. All right, I will talk to you guys later. Y'all have a good one.